talk about it. I spoke with them Thursday.
It's our goal to get kids and teachers back in school so parents can go back to work. Not only does that drive good health outcomes, it also drives good economic outcomes. And so as we navigate this balance, it's important that we make modifications to learn to live with this virus because, as you know, unfortunately, it's not going away anytime soon.
Tennessee's commissioners of education and health advocating for the return of in-person classes, the two attending a roundtable on the subject this week at the White House.
And when you think about very young children not having opportunities to engage with one another socially, that's actually a really critical part of child development. And so we're thinking about that. In middle school and high school, it's very similar. Some of the social development that happens with those critical interactions actually helps to build and in some ways is as important as the academic instruction that happens at schools. And so we don't want to lose that. But on top of that, many of our students in the state rely on our schools for things like nutrition, for transportation, for special education resources, behavioral supports, counseling. Our schools do so much that we don't often talk about. And when schools are not open, many of our students, specifically our most vulnerable students, don't get those critical services they need. So everything from friends and socialization to critical services, I think, can be impacted.
Think about it. We're adults. We have coping mechanisms. We have support systems. We know by and large where to turn when we have problems, but that's been stripped away from children. And so we've got to get them back where they can be with their, they can get some of the social supports that they, whether that's food and meal support or transportation or counseling, also abuse reporting. There are lots of systems that are put around children in the educational system out on right now. And for the holistic betterment, got to get them back in that environment. They can continue to thrive.
Though she mentioned larger districts have different challenges from the more rural ones, Piercey believes most districts in the state will be able to reopen as planned. And while she says research shows positive outcomes for children who get the virus, the next school year will not be back to normal.
Overwhelming majority of children are asymptomatic, maybe upwards of 50% of kids are asymptomatic or have mild symptoms like a cold or something, just minor. However, we can't ignore the fact that children are or can be vectors, and so they can take the infection home to parents or grandparents, and certainly there are teachers in school settings that are at risk. So while we're reassured that children will do well, we can't just throw our hands up and say, oh, it's all fine, just go back to the way it was because you're probably going to be okay. We don't want to do that. That's not the wise thing to do. What we need to do is adequately prepare to keep both our children and our teachers safe, as well as protect the entire community, because these are teachers and students who are moving back and forth into the community.
I do think that the majority of our school districts are planning and will continue to open in person starting this August and September. And I also think it's going to be necessary to ensure that for every district, there is an online or remote option for any family who either can't or isn't comfortable sending their child to school. And that includes resources and alternatives for teachers and staff who might not be able to attend in person either.
The two agree sending a child to school or signing them up for online learning is a decision best made by parents. It's a decision they both face as parents themselves.
It's making that really critical decision for our family about, who are we in contact with regularly? What are our risk factors? And then frankly, asking some really hard questions of our local district and school around what precautionary steps are they taking to make sure that when we send our daughters to school that they're going to be safe. That's our number one priority. And so I think making sure parents can ask those questions, opening that up so that everyone can participate in the conversation. And then I think frankly, one of the things that I would tell parents as a mom is that what's best for your kids. And I think you also know what you need to do for your own family situation. Sometimes those are in a little bit of conflict with one another. Many of us have to work, and we also know that we might not have the opportunity to work from home. And so that's why we want to offer an online opportunity, a remote opportunity from the state and with districts, but then also recognize that we're going to have to support our districts to make sure they have all the equipment necessary to keep kids and staff safe.
So we want to provide reassurance that we're going to do it safely, but at the end of the day, parents know best for their children. but educated parents know even better. And so I encourage parents to not only educate themselves from a reputable source, keyword being reputable. The AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics, has some great resources on keeping kids safe during the pandemic. Local doctors and other medical professionals at healthcare institutions, parents need to educate themselves and then talk to their own school district and find out what are the specific plans if this happens, because I guarantee you it's top of mind for every district leader right now, and that communication between parents is crucial.
Reopening during a pandemic will mean being flexible. Piercey wanting parents to know they are preparing for what she calls pop-up events.
We have contingencies and we have different ways of handling things. What we don't want to happen is the inevitable case pop up in a school and everybody kind of freak out and pull their kids out of school, because we have a very stepwise approach through the Department of Education that targets classrooms or a hallway or a certain wing of the school, or perhaps the whole building in certain but these widespread sweeping changes and closures, really not evidence-based, not rooted in how the disease spreads. And so we want to maximize that in-classroom learning whenever possible.
Contact tracing will also be a key component of keeping the classroom open.
But it's going to look very different if it's a 5-year-old versus a 15-year-old. 5-year-olds are interacting with other kids. It's just a little more difficult to keep them in one seat all day, whereas a 15-year-old might know exactly where he or she sits and who he or she had contact with. So there are different ways to handle it based on the scenario. And then the plan include how to do things if you have an outbreak in a classroom versus 2 unrelated cases, or if you have it on the same team or in the band room. There are lots of different iterations of how to handle that, but the concept overall is the same. Who did you have close contact with, and what were the movement patterns, so we can determine who is at risk.
Schwinn says the state strategy is allowing decisions to be made locally with support from the state.
I'm just deeply grateful to the work of everyone who's pulling to get our schools reopened in whatever way is safe. And certainly I know in East Tennessee in particular, the community rallying around our schools is something that's incredibly special. And I just deeply appreciate the work.
In other news, last week we heard debate over whether mask mandates were allowed. Then Governor Lee said county health boards and county mayors had that authority. Anderson County Mayor Terry Frank said no.
People are smart. People want to live, and they know what they need to do. And, you know, we've seen that taking place in Anderson County. They're able to make those decisions and follow it, and they're living that out.
But in Sevier County, Mayor Larry Waters and fellow mayors in his community made the opposite call.
We think this will help prevent any additional interruption or shutdown of our businesses. I don't think we can afford another shutdown.
We'll, of course, keep an eye on how these mask decisions play out. Well, still to come, a county commission race with all that's going on. Remember, we've got an election around the corner. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side.
Hello, my cat maker. Ready for some summertime fun? This is it. 2019 Challenger all-wheel drive. 2019 Charger SXT. Your choice. $23,888. Hurry in now to Jim Call Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Devices are like doorways that could allow hackers into your home. And like all doors, they're safer when locked. That's why you need Xfinity XFi. With the XFi Gateway, devices connected to your home's Wi-Fi are protected, which helps keep people outside from accessing your passwords, credit cards, and cameras, and people inside from accidentally visiting sites that aren't secure. And if someone tries, we'll let you know. XFi Advanced Security. If it's connected, it's protected. Get Xfinity Internet and ask how to upgrade your in-home Wi-Fi. Switch today.
Hello, my cat maker. Want a real deal on a truck? This is it. 2019 Ram 1500 Automatic Air. Only 2,000 miles. Sale price $23,888. So hurry in now to Jim Call Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
What's next? Answers to questions. Jobs, school, lifestyle. So many changes and so many challenges ahead. WATE 6 on your side is here as we continue to reopen and reconnect with each other, reporting on the issues and the impact in East Tennessee. We're working on the answers to what's next. We're with you every step of the way. We are WATE 6 on your side.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Tennessee This Week. Election season is upon us, and we're going to bring you a bunch of races in the weeks ahead, starting today with the race for Knox County Commission District 1. Democrat Daisha Lundy facing independent Reginald Jackson. I asked them both to remind voters why they're running.
My main goal as the B County Commissioner is to trades, getting the help with the school to get trades back in our middle and high school. Right now, we're struggling right now with no trades, no trade classes. And so with talking with different parents and the teachers and the principals, they were looking to get trade classes back into schools because we're missing that extra activity for the children, especially trying to get jobs right out of high school that are not going to college. They need another avenue.
Rooted my platform in the around the 42% poverty rate among African Americans in Knox County. Really want to figure out how we can restore the Burlington Business District for East Knox County and also Knoxville College, and also make sure we're funding our schools, which is really important during this time since we're in a pandemic and we're so unsure of what's next, and really making sure we maintain that affordable housing.
And we want to mention this August 6th election will be the first in generations that we will see county voters casting their votes on paper ballots. Knox County got the new voting system back in April. Administrator of Elections Chris Davis telling us the machines that had been used for 15 years and they were at the end of their life cycle. Davis says the paper ballots are a simpler and safer option for this year's election. Well, over to Nashville now, where the State Capitol Commission voted last week to move the bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest to a museum. The compromise moving two other Tennessee military leaders as well, including Admiral David Farragut and Knoxville State Representative Rick Staples, by the way, who sponsored a bill to move the bust, talked with us Thursday about that vote.
It took a lot of debate, a lot of argument. It took some threats. It took some insults. I know for me personally, carrying legislation was very taxing on me personally and politically, but it was just the right thing to do.
Well, keep in mind, moving that bust requires that, but also it has to pass the State Historical Commission by a 2/3 margin. Also Thursday, Knox County School Board member Evity Satterfield calling for the removal of the slogan Black Lives Matter painted on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue in front of Austin East High School. Now, you might remember it was done without a city permit. Satterfield saying the mural was not an inclusive community event, and it could have been if proper processes had been followed.
When it comes to community work, community organizing, and having community take ownership, everybody has to be involved. All stakeholders have to be included. Their voice has to be heard. We all do not have to agree, but the voice has to be heard. I support the mural going all over the city. It can go in multiple places as long as the community, the stakeholders are invited to the conversation.
Satterfield also writing Austin East will have to carry the burden of what could potentially transpire in the future, be it counter-protest, defamation, large gatherings of people celebrating, or simple upkeep for years to come. Austin East, by default, she wrote, now becomes responsible. Well, our panel of pundits, they're next. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side. Stay with us, everybody.
Hello, my cat maker. Ready for some summertime fun? Check out this deal. 2018 BMW 330i, leather, sunroof, all the equipment. Sale price $25,888. Get your fun today. Jim Call Dodge Scratcher Jeep Ram.
When looking for a TV and internet provider, we know you have a choice. This is Jessica. She still has satellite TV.
Well, I get tons of HD.
Spectrum has tons of HD. And we get exclusive access to premium original content with Spectrum Originals.
I don't have that. Plus, sometimes in the rain, our services go out.
Because of the dish on your roof?
Get Spectrum TV from $44.99 a month. Call 833-929-4499.
And Spectrum Internet starts at 200 megabits with no data caps and a free modem.
We have to get internet from another company, and it isn't nearly as fast.
Spectrum Internet, $44.99 a month.
I'd switch, but I'm stuck in a contract and would have to pay up to $480 to cancel.
Spectrum has no contracts, and they'll pay up to $500 to help you out of yours.
That's it. I'm switching to Spectrum.
Get Spectrum TV and Internet from $44.99 a month each. Call 833-929-4499.
Hello, my cat maker. Want a great deal on the truck? This is it. 2018 Ram 1500 Automatic Air. All the equipment. Sale price $19,888. So hurry in now and get your great deal at Jim Cardell's Chrysler Jeep Ram.
All right, we've got George Corder with us, Craig Griffith, and Courtney Piper. Let's hop right into it, guys. So we just heard from Evity Satterfield and her concerns about liability with that mural pointed at Austin East High School. So my question to you all, are those concerns enough for the city to consider maybe doing something about it? Craig, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, she wrote a letter that wasn't the official position of either the school principal or the school board or the school administration. So it was really her private opinions on what happened. And I disagree with some of the claims that she made in her letter saying that Austin East was going to be responsible for anything that went on around this road. So I think that there's an old political saying that, you know, if both sides are mad at you, then you must be doing the right thing. So I think the American canon seems to be taking a path that is the right thing.
George?
I think the mayor's problem is that she talks too much. I think India Kincannon is a person who has the best interest of Knoxville at heart, and she's a person who cares about the city. She's a person who wants the right thing, but she talks too much. There was no reason for the mayor to get out and make a statement about how much in support she was of something that didn't meet city permits. And it's clear from what the school board members said that there are people in the area that do not agree with the mural. And that's part of the requirement to get a permit to get the mural done. And the people who did it, I mean, they were clear. They were going to do it with or without the city's approval, and they went ahead after the city said don't do it, and they did it. And now the city's figured out a way to save face, which it needed to do by negotiating with them. But Mayor Kincannon needs to bear in mind she's the leader of the city. She can't let her ideology get in the way of her leadership of all of the city, not just the people that she may connect with on a political or ideological basis.
All right, Courtney, so two issues have been brought up. One, Evity Satterfield's claims, and two, the mayor's leadership. So want to get your thoughts.
Regarding the mayor's leadership, Austin East High School is within city limits. It required a city permit to build or paint this mural. So Mayor Kincannon has every right and should be talking about this particular mural, and in particular, the Black Lives Matter movement. She also has a police force, and racial issues and justice and injustice absolutely affect the city of Knoxville. And I think it's important for all of us to remember that at the crux of this issue is that a process wasn't followed in order to obtain a permit. And part of that process was getting enough community support for said project. It in no way, shape, or form negates the purpose and the mission of Black Lives Matter, which is addressing racial injustice and justice.
Okay.
Well, Blake, when I was with the city, there was an ordinance against, or a regulation against having patio seating on Gay Street. And back then it was when Gay Street was taking off as a restaurant center, and the business people came to us and said, we need patio seating. It's against the regulations, but we need it to survive. And we let them do it because it was the right thing to do, and got the law changed later.
Okay, I do want to move on, but Courtney, just a real quick yes or no. Given those issues brought up by Satterfield, should the city consider doing something about the mural now that it's completed?
Well, yes, because they did not receive the proper permitting and go through the proper process to paint the mural. So yes, something needs to be addressed.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you so much. All right, so now we heard from several county leaders saying yes to masks, no to masks after the executive order by the governor. So my question to you all really is, let's talk about that balance that they have to weigh, the health concerns with those political implications of a mask mandate. How do they find the right balance? Courtney, we'll go back to you on that one.
They find the right balance by looking at the number of COVID cases in their community. And I think that's very telling. We saw the county mayor for Sevier County, Larry Waters, do a complete about face with regards to masks, because Sevier County went from having just over 100 positive cases of COVID to over 850 at some point in time last week before we taped, of confirmed or confirmed or suspected cases of COVID. I mean, that's a huge jump, 100 to over 850. And so he sees the need to take action if he wants to keep businesses and schools open in Sevier County. Now in Anderson County, they're not seeing those high rises in cases. So that's why you've got the county mayor over there going, no, we don't need to do this. We can just continue to encourage personal responsibility.
George?
I think it's a reflexive reaction. I was reading a study in the New England Journal of Medicine earlier today, and here is what it said. Here was a synopsis. We know that wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little or any protection from infection. The chance of catching COVID-19 from a passing interaction in a public space is minimal in many cases. The desire for widespread masking is a reflexive reaction to anxiety over the pandemic. Now, that's not me saying it, that's New England Journal of Medicine. I wear a mask because it seems on balance to me to be to help more than it would hurt. But with all of the competing and conflicting information people have gotten about masks from the highest medical authorities in the United States, the American people, people of Tennessee, and people in Knox County are justified in wondering who knows what they're doing, who knows what they're talking about, and is this accurate or is wearing a mask accurate? And the reality is, I think it's reflexive. I think we're at a point where people in leadership simply don't know what else to do. And so this is the latest thing, and if they don't do it, they're going to be criticized, so it's easier to go ahead and do it.
Greg, how do they balance the public health and those political pressures?
Well, the problem is the virus doesn't recognize or respect political boundaries, geographical boundaries. It's going to go in whatever direction it can go. It's going to look for the first hole in the dam and go through it. And, as George said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If this can help people to stop getting this illness, which, we're still learning how to treat better, and we're actually in a process where we're watching science discover how to take care of this novel virus. We're seeing different treatments being more effective, but we're also seeing, how it can really hamper people all the way to death, but also we're seeing how it's going to have long-term health impacts down the road for people who have suffered it. So, the virus is going to go the way the virus is going to go, no matter what the county mayors say about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask.
All right, so if we head to Nashville for a little bit, pundits, the bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest and that debate over moving it to a museum overcame a major hurdle. Of course, this after the governor signaled that he supported moving it to a museum. So my question to you guys, with all it still has to go through, do you think the bust gets moved at this point? George, we'll start with you.
Oh, yeah, it probably gets moved. But what I just confounded me was that they also want to move the statue of Admiral Farragut, David Farragut, for whom the town of Farragut, who was named, who was a Navy Civil War leader, hero on the Union side, the side that did away with slavery. They're going to move it out, too. This business of moving statues and busts and paintings and renaming things has reached Orwellian proportions. In 1984, there's a whole discussion about every street has been renamed, every building has been renamed, every statue has been taken down or renamed, and it's almost a mania. Now, Nathan Bedford Forrest was a general in the Confederate Army, which rebelled against the United States. Also, after the war, after he disbanded the Ku Klux Klan, he so reversed his positions that black groups invited him to speak, and the newspaper reports talk about how they received him enthusiastically. And he said, if you are ever in trouble, I will be there with you. And we never talk about that. That's what we should be focusing on, how the man changed. But if you want to take a bust out and put it in a museum, go ahead. But Farragut, that's ridiculous.
Courtney?
I mean, we're renaming and naming and swapping out statues all the time. Just look at the football field in Nashville. We're naming and renaming things all the time. New streets, Philip Fulmer Way, Peyton Manning Pass. I mean, come on, George, give me a break.
You know what I mean, and you know that's not it.
It's the same thing, George. It's the same exact things. Things are getting named and renamed based on the times that we're in and the heroes.
I tell you what, when Philip Fulmer Way gets changed because people are protesting it being named Philip Fulmer Way, get back to me.
I don't think that will happen. But anyway, I think we failed to mention, George was very kind in his definition of Nathan Bedford Forrest. He committed treason against the United States of America, and he lost. And so why we want to honor that action has just been beyond my comprehension. This bust always belonged in a museum.
Courtney, do you think that, we know that there's still hurdles ahead, but do you think this is finally it to push it over the top and get it out of the rotunda? Yes. Okay, absolutely. George, Craig, I've got about a minute left. I want to get your thoughts on the bust.
Well, I think that, the governor acknowledged in his remarks last week the pain that bust causes for some Tennesseans because of the actions of the massacre at Fort Pillow. So I think that they're going down the right direction. But I endeavored for several hours today to find out why the bust of Admiral Farragut is being moved. And I saw absolutely no discussion of why that is. I think that going down this road of having public bodies through public discussion decide what to do with statuaries and busts and things like that is a good idea, but I still have no idea why Admiral Farragut is being moved.
Well, I know where some reporters work, so we'll get on that story. Guys, thank you so much for your time, Courtney, George, and Craig. We'll see you next week at 12:30.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.
Guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.